Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. Now, if you're expecting Amelia and not me, she's off on holiday and asked very kindly if we could step in. And I'm very excited to be in the company of two beautiful women, Shelley and Jen. How are you both doing? Oh, you've got your.
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. This is my second visit on this show, and I really enjoy talking about wellness. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. And Shelley's first time I'm meeting you. Nice to meet you.
You as
Uh,
well.
Yeah, it's just an impromptu Wednesday evening, and Amelia always hosts beautiful shows, and I'm usually a guest, but she's asked me to step in, and I'm really excited. So good to meet you, Shelley.
Thank you.
So, Jen, Wellness Wednesdays. You've been on this show many times, and there's the host of subjects that we've discussed. But right now, what's calling out to you? With what's going on in the world.
Well, there's so many things whenever it comes to wellness that I think that many people um, don't connect the dots to. So you and I have talked about this before. I'm 47 and I look far younger than my age. And the reason why is because of the way that I've taken care of myself over the years. I've been very mindful of using specific products that don't have a lot of chemicals or dyes in them. I'm very mindful of the food that I put into my mouth. I'm very mindful of the kind of meat that I do eat. I do eat meat. I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with eating meat, but my body calls for it, and so I eat according to what my body is saying, and I shut off according to my body. And the other thing that I've been really mindful of is working to balance my hormones and balance my hormones naturally and make sure that I maintain a high hormone level so that I'm feeling optimal. Because when a woman loses her hormones, because I've already started into the premenopausal stages, um, a lot of things happen. And I used to be in a group on Facebook where women were like premenopausal, postmenopausal, and they were having horrific symptoms. And I didn't have any of these symptoms. And I'm like, what is different about me? And it's just because of the way that I take care of my body and my mind. So I don't know, I feel like if this is a good way to talk about this or a good direction for the show to go.
Yeah, no, carry on. I think that, yeah, hormone imbalance is a pressing problem for women today. And they just kind of assign it off to the fatigue, the stress levels, and, our adrenals that get depleted affect our hormones severely.
Mhm.
And, I think lack of sleep, especially as well, and the way we're sleeping. But I actually suffered really bad hormonal imbalance for many years in my adolescence, and I had no idea. Had really bad premenstrual
Yeah.
struggles, and we are not guided by the medical fraternities to, guide us and say that, even from the sanitary towels that we're wearing, affect our endocrine system so much. As we know now, the chemicals that they have in the tampons and in the sanitary towels, all this toxic shock syndrome, and then causing the infertility. So there's so much going on with that, and now that we're raising awareness, especially in this movement that we're in, finding out so much. But hormonal imbalance also causes a bit of an aggressive and depressive mood.
Yes.
When you agree, yeah. So you have these
Yeah.
fluctuating mood swings, and when people say to you, "Hi, Dr. Lindsay," hi, oh, you're on mute.
Hi, ladies.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you? Oh, you're on mute again, sweetheart.
How
There
are
we
you
go.
doing?
Yeah, good. We just started off the show, and Jen very kindly started off the topic about our hormones and the way that they affect us. And we're just saying that there's so many factors that affect us. And I was just about to say that, we can easily fob off our premenstrual cycle as, oh, it's just time of the month. But actually, periods aren't supposed to be that bad,
Correct. Yes.
right? So, back to you, Jen. We were saying about our hormones imbalance.
Well, I love having Dr. Lindsay here because she can expand on like I'm not a doctor. I have no medical background. I have no medical expertise. I've just self-studied to try to help self-heal myself. And I know that Alpa's been on a journey of self-healing as well. And a lot of us, we have these massive symptoms over the years. Like I said, I'm 47 years old. I was older in my 30s than I am in my 40s. And it's because of the self-healing work that I've done over the years of raising my frequency and letting go of all the toxicity that was in my body. In my 30s, I could not function. I was all the time tired. I had horrible periods. I had missed periods. They were all over the place. I had all of these really crazy symptoms, joint pain, acne, like all of this stuff. And so I had to go on a self-healing journey. The other thing that I couldn't do in my 30s that I can do now is I didn't have the capacity to get my mind around anything. Like I didn't have the ability to be successful, because in order to be successful in life, you've got to be able to integrate and activate people. And I didn't have that ability, not because I didn't possess the skill. I didn't possess the energetic bandwidth to be able to handle or hold too much stress or too much of anything. And so as I've self-healed over the years, I'm able to handle more and more and more as I get older, but it's just because of my healing work. And one of the things that I was going to say is that our governments have created like this pyramid of this is how you should eat, and have told people fat is bad for you and you shouldn't eat fat, and you should eat more of, like the hierarchy of the pyramid is like eat more grains and all of this stuff. And I mean, Dr. Lindsay can attest to this. The creator, the precursor of all hormones is cholesterol. And what have they told us for years? Lower your cholesterol. You should not be eating meat. You should not be eating fat because you want to have low cholesterol. Well, they were trying to lower our cholesterol so that our hormones would be out of balance, so that we would be infertile, so that we would be comatose most of the time, so that we'd want to veg out in front of a TV, because they didn't want us operating at our optimal. And operating at our optimal is having really healthy cholesterol levels that create what's a hormone called pregnenolone, that then creates two hormonal pathways into our DHEA, our cortisol, our estrogen, our testosterone, our progesterones. And that hormonal balance is then what creates us being able to have a clear mind and let go of anxiety and all of that stuff.
Not being crazy.
Yes, exactly.
And not sectioned off as being 50 shades of cray. Yeah, thank you for that, Jen. Dr. Lindsay, do you want to sort of shed more light on what Jen's saying?
So that's absolutely accurate. And I think, did you guys see the new food pyramid that came out this past week?
I did see it. I haven't posted about it yet because I wanted to do a little bit more research on it, but I did see it.
Yes. And then you can look into who funded it, who did the study. And the top of the list is frosted mini wheats, not even regular mini wheats, frosted ones. And it's better than beef, butter, and eggs.
Yeah. Lucky Charms is listed on there. Like, what? I mean, there are words in like Lucky Charms that you can't even pronounce. There's no reason why anyone or any child should be eating that stuff.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And how much it affects our children,
Yeah.
ADHD, all the issues that go on with them, and how you can.
It's just sugar overload.
Yeah, absolutely. Sugar, chemicals.
Right. The E numbers, the preservatives. It all actually imbalances the brain chemistry as well as the hormonal imbalances.
I know one of the things that Alpa has been on lately and recently is really diving into autism. And I feel like a lot of what is created from the ongoing use of eating these kinds of foods, it contributes to more and more children having these kinds of issues.
100%. I actually found out my nephew was autistic officially a few months ago, and it's something that I suspected when he was 2 years old, and he's 12 now. So for 10 years, I'd embarked on this journey of being obsessed myself about this subject and what it is and everything about the spectrum and the variants. And I had noticed the correlation also to high sugar levels. And every time he would eat gluten and sugar, his sort of hyperactivity would be much more increased. And then this took me on the journey to kind of look into all the members of my family and myself as well, to realize that I potentially sit on the spectrum very mildly with ADHD. And I look back at my diet, which was completely sugar and gluten based growing up. So can we imagine, and then also with what we get ingested with. So I'm just being a bit discreet because this is on my YouTube, so I have to be careful with what words I can use. But yeah, there's so many things that contribute to the autism spectrum, and sugar being a big culprit, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, and in Chinese medicine, there's also herbal formulas that you can use. I believe you had mentioned something that you were using with, did you say it was your nephew?
Yeah, I mean, I've created a herbal, well, not myself, but we've created the brand where we've launched this oil as a herbal topical that's applied to the sole of the feet. And actually, I've got a little video that I want to show everyone shortly. But it's or through the navel, and it's just to sort of extract heavy metal toxins from the brain. And this is based on the ancient principles of Ayurveda, skin being the largest organ. So putting it on the sole of the feet or the navel helps detox this by a process. So it's a two-stage process, the oils. We have the detox that they use for 12 days, and then the autism support. And they're a mixture of botanical herbs and plant-based herbs. And we have seen phenomenal results with not just autistic people, but people using the detox on its own, feeling things like being clearer in the mind, a lot lighter, sharper in their thought, and then essentially the autistic tendencies starting to dissipate. So I'll show the video shortly, but acupuncture, homeopathic medicine, there's quite a lot out there, that assists this, but it's down to sort of parents and the individuals first acknowledging that there is these contributing factors that exacerbate these conditions. People say it's genetics. I'd like to actually know your views on that, Dr. Lindsay, because my family, it runs in the family, and it's genetics, and that's what causes autism. I remember very clearly after the age of 10, when I had the MMR, that I noticed a big difference in the way I functioned, and my memory, and this kind of level of focus and concentration. And it's still with me very mildly today, but I've learned to manage it and educate myself on, what works for me, what diets work for me. Jen, you mentioned, like people's views on meat and dairy. I'm all for figuring out what works for you. And we spoke about this on our last show about our blood types. I went vegan for a while. Did I get healthier? Absolutely not. My body was craving eggs. And then I did my blood type, and it's B positive, which is the pescatarian diet. Not that I eat fish, but that doesn't exclude dairy. So your thoughts. Actually, we haven't heard from you, Shelley, today.
Yeah, I did my blood type, and that was very interesting to see how we all are so different, and we need to work with ourselves. Not everyone's the same. When you were talking earlier about hormones, I've had 6 pregnancies, and it's just been horrendous to try to find an even place where you can physically and emotionally and mentally cope with life. I mean, it's almost impossible with the foods we're taking in, with everything that's kind of combating against us. So adrenals seem to be a huge problem. Do you guys have any advice for that?
I think we've got the doctor in the house.
Say one more time. You said adrenals. Do we have any advice for that?
Yeah, because when your adrenals kind of flatline, what is your
adrenals flatlining is very rare, and it's most likely a thyroid issue.
Okay.
So that's usually what it is.
Okay.
So there's that. And then for like Chinese medicine, to go back to autism, it's insubstantial phlegm in the mind. And what causes more phlegm in the body is dairy. Dairy, sugar, excess heat, excess spicy. So it's very interesting too that you altered diet, right? You said with your nephew and yourself, and then you noticed different things happening. I believe Andrew Huberman was just on a podcast. I think he had released one on ADHD, and he talks about the differences between diet. One of his friends does studies with autistic children and ADHD, and changing the diet and what happens. And that's a really great podcast to go listen to. He breaks it down very simply.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of diet and the right herbs and the supplements that they can take, because
and genes.
And genes, yeah. What we're finding though, recently with the product that I launched is we had a 4-year-old that had a speech impediment, wasn't making any eye contact, and the mother bought the oils, and she persisted for the 12 days, and then went on to the autism support. And she actually struggled the first 4 or 5 days with her son. He had what's called a Hexheimer's reaction, a chronic detox symptom, and he started puking up, feeling nauseous, and all of this. But she had the intuitive compass to persevere, and she just lowered the dosage, because this is quite potent. You only need to put 2 or 3 drops on the feet, but she lessened the dose, and she persevered and continued to the autism support. And after about 6 weeks, she said that her son, who only had a vocabulary of about 10, 15 words at the age of 4, was now actually emotionally and mentally connecting with his mum with an increase from 15 to 200, 250 words. And she made the right changes with his diet as well. So it's a combination of, finding the right complementary herbs that work. And of course, diet is a big factor. I do agree there. And sorry, Jen, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to, you had mentioned something about genetics, and genetics does play a very big part in this. But there is a concept about, it's called epigenetics, and epigenetics is a study of the gene expression. So we can either turn off or turn on genes based upon how we live our life, what we think, what we eat, what we believe to be true. For instance, my father has AFib. And so I have a genetic predisposition to go in that direction. And I was already starting to go in that direction. I was already starting to feel the different flutters. And I decided, you know what, I can either express this gene or not. And I am choosing not to express this gene. So then what do I need to do, and what do I need to understand to not turn that gene on fully and have that experience? And one of the things that I recognized and realized with AFib, just in general, is that breath and breathing is a huge part to your heart staying in rhythm. So what I taught myself was, how do I breathe properly? I started doing a lot of breath work, and I started to breathe deeper into my belly, deeper into my stomach, and being very conscious of my breath consistently. So most people only breathe to right here. And this is what's causing people, as you age, if you're only breathing to right here your whole entire life, you're not fully oxygenating your body, and you're not oxygenating your cells. And so what's happening is that your heart starts to beat out of rhythm. Your hormones are imbalanced, so it's beating out of rhythm. And you develop a dis-ease in the body. And so with breath, what I have done is I oxygenate my full body consciously and consistently. And because I do that in the day, I do that at night. Because what I noticed, like with my dad, he not only had AFib, but he had sleep apnea, where you hold your breath and grind your teeth, and then you stun yourself awake to get yourself going again. Well, I don't do that. I breathe so fully that I breathe fully all through the night, even with my autonomic nervous system. And so with the concept of epigenetics and the study of epigenetics and understanding that, just that concept alone, you decide whether or not you want to turn on a gene or not. And so if you have cancer in your family, you decide, I don't want to turn this gene on. Okay, so if I don't want to turn this gene on, what do I need to do to preserve my health to not turn the gene on? And the same with autism, and like what we were talking about with autism and children with autism, there's so many moms that have no idea. They just think that they're feeding their kid like this pre-packaged food. It's easy, it's fast. It's like, I don't have time to think about cooking a full meal. The kid may be picky, and so it won't eat what she puts in front of it. And it's like, it's just easier to give it macaroni and cheese. But macaroni and cheese is probably what's causing the child to have episodes. So I just wanted to make that point about the gene expression.
Yep.
No,
No, epigenetics is great. People should look that up. They're also now finding that at the end of like the telomeres, that the genes that there's genes that people are able to, certain genes, if you have them, to manifest better than other people.
Mm-hmm.
I forget which gene it's called, but that's also very interesting to look into. But also with breathwork's outstanding. Think of like even Tai Chi and Qigong. So much breath work, and it's about moving the chi that can get stuck in the chest, the liver. Stagnant chi is when you start to decline, right? Everything starts to stagnate. Think of this cycle. They use a star for fire, earth, water, wood, right? It should go in a nice circle. The chi is flowing through all the organs. You can think of chi as blood, nutrients, not just energetic. And what happens when things start to stagnate, the liver gets aggressive and then attacks the spleen, and then all sorts of different issues happen. And breathing is a major component into unsticking chi.
Yes, it is.
I definitely agree with that. I remember when I first started acupuncture, you mentioned the spleen, and I went to see this. It was an integration of Japanese and Chinese acupuncture, and it was amazing. And then they click you all into place, and then he starts putting needles all around, not any of the other places that I'd experienced. And he actually said that your breathing, Alpa, this was about over 10 years ago, and this is where I learned the importance of breathing. Jen, I was breathing up to not even here. I was breathing up to here because, you're when you kind of have chronic anxiety, or the fact that I potentially sat on the spectrum, and the fact that we don't get the desired exercise that we're meant to as children in schools, especially here in the UK. Physical education is not as much as what it is probably even in America. But I realized that I was always, in that fight or flight kind of state, and my breathing just didn't go to here. So when I was taught meditation and I went to, yoga classes, and they were saying, take a deep breath in, it would just last up to here. I could not go all the way down here. And I would be like, and it wasn't until I went on this kind of spiritual trip to India where I really learned the power of kind of breathing through one nostril and releasing, and then I could feel it get deeper every single time, and then that clears the mind. And so absolutely, Jen, breathing is so important in all the time, every day.
Yeah. You know what? I would love to just like demonstrate a couple of breath work techniques, because
I'm glad you said that, because I was about to ask you.
I was going to say, a lot of people, I think, listening, like, I think a lot of the audience is Christian. And so there is like maybe this fear of going down this road or this rabbit hole around this. And if you are Christian and there is fear, I just invite you to step into this and trust the process. God gave you breath. Breath is the first thing that God did. God breathed into you.
I want to break something down for that too.
Yeah.
So think of inspiration. to inspire, to breathe in the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
What are the people that divined acupuncture, Chinese medicine, the meridians, right? What are their characters in it's called the yellow book. It's nose and fire. Breathe in fire, breathe in spirit.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And I feel like, for those of you who don't know my story, I was raised Christian, went full New Age, and have come back to a more balanced Christian perspective. And so I feel like what I bring back is I've been brave enough to go all the way to the New Age and study all of that. I've been brave enough to go there. I know that I didn't get hurt. It doesn't hurt. It was okay. But I also bring back so much wisdom, because there is a lot of wisdom in that. And I would not be who I am today and where I'm at today, especially with my health, had I not gone down that road, because I had to search for healing. And the thing of it is that I feel in Christianity that there is a separation from mind and body. And most Christians are in their mind and they're not connected to their body. And your body has got to be connected to you. You have got to go back and take care of this vessel. This is the vessel that God gave you, that was created for you to go through and carry out your gospel mission in this vessel. This vessel has got to be treated with the utmost respect and the utmost love and the utmost authority. And so I feel like this is what I bring back to this Christianity and this movement, is this connection to the body. So with breath work, so I just wanted to kind of say that with breath work, a couple of, like Alpa had mentioned, is the alternate nostril breathing. So you hold your hand like this. You've got your thumb here and your pinky finger here, or you can do your ring finger, whichever one. But you just hold one nostril and you breathe fully in. And you want to feel your belly. You want to feel your belly extending, right? So you're breathing in and you're feeling your belly extending. If you don't feel your belly extending and getting bigger, then you're not breathing in deep enough, okay? So you're going to breathe fully in until you can't breathe in anymore. And when you think you can't breathe in anymore, just breathe a little bit more. And then you're going to switch nostril. So I'm going to use my ring finger and I'm going to clog the other side and I'm going to breathe out. And I'm going to let that breath go out that other side. And then I'm going to breathe in that same side. And then I'm going to switch nostrils and let it go. And I'm going to breathe in. And I'm going to switch nostrils and breathe out. And that's an alternate nostril breath. It's brilliant. Also known as a sun. Yeah, it's a sun breath. So it activates your glandular system. There's so many glands in your, we've talked about hormones today, and the endocrine system. The endocrine system is made up of a bunch of glands, and the glands are in your brain. You have the amygdala, you have the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the pineal. You have the thyroid gland. You have the thalamus gland right here. You have the adrenal glands. Lindsay can speak to all the glandular system. And then you have the lymphatic system. The lymphatics, you have the lymph nodes in your neck and in your throat and under your arms and in your groin. And the lymphatic system does not have a drainage. Like, it doesn't have a pump. And so you have to move your body and you have to breathe deeply in order to move the lymph, because the lymph is not going to move if you don't move. Have you ever gone for a walk and got itchy legs or itchy feet? That means your lymph was static and stationary. And so when you're moving your body, it starts to itch, and that's why. So the other breathwork technique is a little bit more intense, but I think a breath of fire. I want to teach you guys a breath of fire, because, we were just talking about fire, and that's whenever you're, you can do it through your nose or through your mouth. I'm going to do it through my mouth. And it is a conscious, okay, so it's, and so you're breathing really fast and you're pushing it out, but you're not really taking a conscious breath in. You're just letting the breath come back in. And at the same time that you're doing this, you're activating your abdominal muscles. And when you're breathing out, you're squeezing your abdominal muscles to you. And as you're breathing, when you're breathing in, you're squeezing your abdominal muscles to you. When you're breathing out, you're just kind of letting them go. It's like a relax. Okay, so the out breath is a relaxed state, and the in breath is a very intentional, I'm bringing it in with fire. So, and you can do that for 3 minutes. You do that for 3 minutes, I promise you, you are going to feel some things. You might feel anger start to move in your body. This is how I got rid of anger. I did this every single day for 3 minutes, 90 days, and I moved anger out of my body. But the thing of it is that we don't, like, I wasn't outwardly expressing anger. I wasn't yelling at people. I just was like, it was like that underlying seething anger that was in my body. And I did this every day, and I got rid of it. 3 minutes a day.
Wow. And do you know, Jen, have you done the one for anxiety where you're breathing in a shape of an O and then releasing through your nostrils?
Yes.
I used to do, so that's really good for releasing any kind of anxious state. I remember I was on stage once and I was hyperventilating, and what was I doing there? I wasn't focusing on my breathing. I was focusing too much about my nerves going on stage. And a friend of mine reminded me about some breath work that I already knew, but I wasn't applying it in that moment. But it was an instantaneous shift in my kind of energetic level, and my state and nervous system almost felt reset when I was breathing in with a small little O, as if you're like sucking on a straw, and then releasing through your nostrils. And it feels, I mean, if everyone does that, right? If you just sort of go, and then you hold it, and then you release through the nose, and you do that, like I did it like 21 times just before, and I think I was a bit stable after. That's something really immediate. Like these are sort of tips for immediate relief. You know, if you're nervous, if you're in a situation at work or at home and you want to control that anger, Breath of Fire was one of my favorites, Jen. Thanks for reminding me. It's something that it's a practice, which says something really important there, that you were doing it for 90 days. It's that consistency. I'm on this vibrating plate at the moment. You were speaking about the lymphatic system, and I go on this plate every day at quite a high tempo. Started off a little bit slow because I found that I was getting a stitch the first few weeks. And lots of water, and I'm on this product called ASEA, and I'm doing my own stuff and doing all the supplements and everything. But if your mind is in a constant state of stress, you're kind of exacerbating the adrenals, depleting the adrenals, like you mentioned, Shelley, earlier on, and you kind of go into that fight or flight. So, you know, this is 10 minutes a day, and it really started the vibrating plate, and it really started sort of moving things in the lymphatic system. And then as you start your day, like if you don't have time to exercise, which we all really should do, right? You know, put it in our time every day, even half an hour, just for doing the techniques, like you said, Jen, like breathing or a plate. And this plate is amazing. It's the vibrating plate. I bought it on Amazon. $100 or something, and it was just, it's really been, so it's a collective, isn't it? Like you eat well, but if you're stressing out inside and you're not breathing properly, then you know, you hear about the people that eat well, run, exercise well, but then they develop some forms of cancer. So what's going on? Are we kind of, we can't ignore, you know, one part. We have to make sure that our mental health is, you know, optimal as well.
That's why I enjoyed Amelia's program so much, raising 6 kids and just trying to keep, when your body is just so stressed out, but then the emotional part comes in, right? And the unforgiveness, and I just got stuck. And, you know, and life had been going so good for so long, and then all of a sudden you hit a wall. And it's like, what do? You have no tools in your pocket. And that was one of the first things they taught me, was I got in connection with Claire, was the breathing technique, because I was not getting any oxygen. I was such a shallow breather because I was under so much stress. And like you said, Jennifer, you just start getting clarity, and then it's like a domino in the right direction instead of going down a very bad, nasty hill.
Yeah, and speaking of Amelia's program, everyone, Amelia's launched her book that's available to download, and the information will be in the banner soon. Amelia has very kindly dedicated herself to be a service to humanity. I absolutely feel inspired by Amelia on a daily basis because she's doing so much that she deserves this break that she's on right now. And she's written this wonderful book with some beautiful people that are in it. And Jen and myself are in one of the chapters. I think Jen, the girl gang, the wonderful conversation that we had. So you can download this book for free, folks. Please do that. Any nuggets of wisdom that you can take from it, read the whole book. And Shelley's a testament to the course, her program, and how it's helped. We can always gain wisdom by people that we speak to, be it our friends, be it with the people that we connect with, the books that we read. So it's the things that we're putting in our mind, body, and soul. So, Shelley, you were on the program, and have you finished the full program?
Yes, I have. It's been wonderful. The biggest thing for me was unforgiveness for myself. I never thought of that. You have this whole list of people that you can just think of at a drop of a hat. But back when I got everything cleared out, only thing I was left with was me. And I think that a lot of people have that. We have to release things and let things go because it's not God's plan for us to torment ourselves.
Yeah. Like you mentioned this before as well, Jen, in a previous show, the power of forgiveness. And forgiving yourself. We can forgive. We can have a list of all the people that we want to forgive in our lives. But Shelley, thank you for saying that, because it really is about the self first, forgiving yourself for either not knowing better, for whatever it is that you're trying to move forward from in life, and certain actions that we take. So this is all part of this whole wellness for self, that what are we contributing? And it's that inward journey that we're taking to discover who we truly are. And we're kind of cleaning our internal closets. And Jen, you can expand on this, the power of forgiveness, because Shelley, I am on that part, the forgiveness. And I noticed a lot of things coming up, a lot. And when you're in this movement and you're sort of fighting the good fight, you're in your own world, you've got your own jobs, you've got your own careers, we still end up forgetting about ourselves. We forget about the most important person in our lives is ourselves. Because if this is not going to be functioning properly, and guess what? All of these other diseases, as you said, Jen, are going to start saying, hello, we're here. We haven't forgotten you. So it's a journey of self-healing. And in each we have to sort of find our own way.
And the emotions are so important. I don't think people take that into account, and they hold on to the same emotions over and over and over and over again. And then it creates a track in the body and it gets stuck, like it's a groove, right? Like the ox that's stuck in the same path that's tied, and it just follows the same routine. And that's another cause for disease.
Yeah.
Stuck emotions, grief, worry, pensiveness, anger, irritability.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Every emotion creates a feeling, a vibration, a frequency inside of the body, and the body then responds to that. I think one telling examples of this, the work of Dr. Emoto in Japan, who, and if you haven't heard of him, you can look him up, and his information is called Messages in Water. And so what he did was he took a high-powered microscope and he took pictures of drops of water. And he, what he realized is that, we are a vast majority water. I don't remember what the percentage of our bodies are water, but we are a vast majority of water. Water carries messages in it. So, it can be the same for you. So just for example, he took water and he put it near heavy metal music, and he took drops of water and put it near classical music. He took water and spoke love into it. He took water and spoke joy into it. He took water and spoke hate into it, and spoke all kinds of negative, horrible things into it. And then he took pictures of all this different water. And the water of heavy metal and hate and anger and depression and all of those kinds of emotions was like very polluted. It was very like a blob. It was just a blob. What?
Unsymmetrical, uneven.
Yes. Uneven, unsymmetrical, uneven. And the droplets of water that he took where love and joy and happiness was spoken over it and into it look like crystals and diamonds. And you can look this up. It's called Messages in Water. And it's a real phenomenon. And so, you know, I look back, I was my own worst enemy. I hated myself. I had acne my whole life. I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, oh my God, I would want to like rip my skin off because I hated how I looked. I was so hard on myself. I was my own worst enemy. And I had absolutely no love for myself. And one of the things that I've had to do over the last few years and, you know, going on into becoming an entrepreneur has humbled me, and it has had me have to do this inner work around loving myself, because you cannot be successful in this life. And what do I mean by success? I don't mean by having the things. I mean reaching people and going on your mission and doing the mission work you came here to do. You can't be successful if you don't love yourself. And so I had to go on that journey of self-love and really honoring myself and understanding that when I was speaking hate and all of these horrible things over myself, my body, all I was creating was more acne. I was creating more dis-ease in my body. Yeah, exactly. It was just coming out that way. I still sometimes have pimples and I'm like, there you are. I mean, I don't hate them anymore. I just am like, that's just part of my makeup, you know. And I think what I am going to do is do Alpa's, because what the next thing I wanted to do was and I've been looking into this, is a heavy metal detox. And heavy metal.
I've got you on the list and we've mailed you out one, so don't order it. I'm sending you one.
Oh, okay. Because I want to do that. And I want to do a heavy metal detox. I just literally ordered the Medical Medium's book today around, you know, cleanses and detoxes that I want to put together in order to move more of this stuff out of my body.
Should look into coffee enemas as well.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard, I have never done a coffee enema. I've done a lot of colonics, like in a like place where they do colonics, but I have never done a coffee enema.
Yeah. So that, and then to touch back on the water, think of intentions and prayer and how important and how strong, you know, not just words that are spoken, but thoughts and vibe and feelings, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Not just words.
Definitely like to add to that, because back, and I learned about this in 2006. I was on one of these life coach courses, and you know, it was a bit like a Tony Robbins one, but a guy called Andy Harrington, and he invited a guest. I think it would have been around 2006, and he was explaining the emotional connection to diseases and the parts of your body. And you know, what side represents money worries, the back problems, what they represent, the knees, stubbornness. And everybody was in this room. This is all very new to me then. This is when I was embarking my journey of, like, you know, spirituality and health and all sorts. And he asked somebody to put their hand up and said, like, you know, anyone want to discuss or, you know, tell us if they've got any health issues. So this lady put her hand up and said, yes. And she stood up, and then she went, oh crap, but I'm up. So I'll say it anyway. She just said, I have IBS. Right. And then he went, okay, when did you get it? And she goes, oh, it was around, it must have been about 18. And she goes, I'm 45 now, but I was 18 and it's just been a lifelong problem. And you could feel in her voice that she was so agitated as she was talking about it. So he was, you know, doing all this kind of work, like, you know, with his hands and sort of trying to get her to kind of calm down. So he goes, what happened 6 months before you were 18 when you recalled you getting this this situation of IBS? Oh, I was so angry with my parents for moving homes without consulting me. And I had something going on with my dad, and I can't remember exactly what it was. it was very interesting that he asked her what happened 6 months before you developed this dis-ease in your body. So then he goes, so she goes, I was irritated. I was so irritated with my parents. And then she went like this, and she just kind of paused because she was embarking on the journey herself with that energy that she was kind of putting into her own system with that frequency. And then the next one that really stood out to me was this gentleman stood up and he said, oh, I've got chronic back pain, hurts me on my left-hand side especially. And my shoulders hurt. And so he goes, when did you develop this? He goes, oh, it was when I was moving from, I think it was India to Canada, and my wife couldn't come and I felt so unsupported. What does the back do? It's your support system, right? And I can't for the life of me remember which part is what, but I do know the left side was money, and then the right, it deals, Jen, you might know this, but it was just fascinating. Then I was curious and I thought I would just have the guts to ask in front of her. There's about 300 people in the room. So I just happened to accidentally on purpose bump into this speaker, and he asked me, and I have psoriasis on my elbows, and I get like little bits every now and again. And he goes, do you fall out with your mum often? I was like, what? How do you know? And it was this fascinating journey for me thereafter, and that curiosity that was sparked, that our body has the most powerful way of healing itself and communicating to you. And psoriasis represents anger. If you look at that, if you read all the affirmations that Louise Hay talks about, with that, you're not being angry with yourself. It's your body that's going into fire. So it will come out individually for people in different ways. But it was just, if you have that curiosity to want to heal and how to, and not just the conventional way, but understand how frequency and our energy play a huge impact. That was just amazing. And then, there's so much out there that we can learn.
There's a book called Your Body Keeps a Score. I haven't read it in like 20 years, but yeah, that's a good one for people to look into.
Yeah, that one. And then When the Body Says No is a Gabor Mate. And that's a newer one that just came out not long ago. I'm actually currently reading both of those. But When the Body Says No is about when your body has had enough emotionally, like you cannot go any further. It's had enough. And now it's going to turn into dis-ease. And so one of the things that we mentioned earlier in this section, in this session tonight, I kind of like now can loop this because in this book called When the Body Says No, there's precursors to everything. So when you start out in life and you have hormonal imbalance, and then you start to go into depression because the hormones are out of balance and you're emotionally just not there and you can't cope with life, and then you go into depression. And so then you have depression for years. What then eventually happens is you start to form a neurological disease. The neurological disease could be MS, it could be Parkinson's, it could be Alzheimer's, something like that normally turns into a neurological disease. And so and this also ties into the epigenetics thing, it's like if you have a predisposition for it, if the family genes do turn on to, let's say, Parkinson's, then it needs to be like your full-time job to figure out, how do I heal this? If I'm feeling depressed right now, I'm in my 20s and 30s, maybe even my 40s, and I'm feeling depressed, and I feel depressed for years and years and years. How do I not feel this way anymore? Like, what do I need to do to shift how it is that I feel about myself, how it is that I feel in my day-to-day world? Do I feel overwhelmed? That was one of the things that I always felt. I always felt overwhelmed. Like I could not handle anything. And it was just the way that I thought. It was my hormones and how out of balance my body was, that everything overwhelmed me. And so whenever I decided that I wanted to heal all of this, I went on a healing journey, and now things don't overwhelm me. I can compartmentalize, and I can put them in their place, and I can be like, oh, I don't need to let this bother me. I don't need to let this take over. I can shift this. And so I set boundaries. So this is like, I mean, this is getting into personal development. We could go on and on about this, but like I had no ability to set boundaries because of things that I experienced in my childhood and how I was raised. So I didn't have boundaries, and that led to marrying a narcissist, and I was married to a narcissist for 6 years. You know, so like all of these things are interconnected and looped and changed together. And it's like whenever you go on a healing journey, it's like you taking the pieces apart. It's like, okay, and you're starting to take the tentacles of it all off.
Yeah. So I just want to also let people know too, is that when they go on healing journeys, is that they don't have to do it alone. You don't have to go down the Google rabbit hole. So acupuncturists,
Right.
Chinese medicine, alternative medicine doctors, find a doctor, or some acupuncturists are also high level too. You don't have to look for an acupuncture doctor, but they're trained in this to take a full history, to look at everything, to break everything down. And we are trained in all of these different areas of energy work, the breath work, all this different stuff. So these healing journeys that you go on do not have to be by yourself.
Exactly.
And herbs and acupuncture change your DNA. So they're outstanding.
Yeah, it's figuring out the toxicity in your life in every way. So your diet, even the people that you interact with, people that affect your mental peace of mind. And there's so much to be said about that level of toxicity, the emotional toxicity, because sometimes we ignore the elephant in the room ourselves. You know, it's all good and very well going out there and being successful in areas of your life, but then not being congruent and truthful with yourself, saying, well, this is toxic in my life. And what is this doing for me? Because you can be great at all the exercise. You can do all of the good things with the supplements, with the diet. But you mentioned what you said, Jen, like being with a narcissist. I just sort of put it under the umbrella of toxicity. There's so much that we have been kind of bombarded with, especially in this whole new age, but it's just basically people are operating from their wounds and how then they treat people. So I kind of like to put it more in a graceful place where we are increasing our connection to God and our kind of spiritual compass there and alignment with God, whatever faith you're from, and then having that strength to be able to eliminate that toxicity from your life. And I tell you, it's not the easiest. It really isn't. It could be a family member, it could be your parents, your siblings, your best friends from years. And what have we all realized in this movement? And as we're drawing to an end to the show, and God has time gone quickly, about 3-4 minutes. But there's a lot that the things that we think about on a day-to-day basis as well that affect the levels of toxicity. I love acupuncture, Dr. Lindsay. I really do. I just don't like it on the spleen area on the foot, right? I tell you where else I don't like it. It's like there was a part by my knee. And it was like this current, and I thought it was
a giant nerve right there.
Yeah.
So for that spleen point, there are very, 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 very tiny needles that I use on 2-year-olds in the hospital. So have your acupuncturist switch to the little lime green ones that are covered in silicone. You won't even feel it go in.
Oh, she's brutal. She is this Chinese lady, and she just doesn't even.
Yes, the Chinese ones are tough. They think that we're weak too. And why? Because their qi, it's usually colder, right? In China, the weather's different, and they dig deeper for that qi. They're much more aggressive with their needling technique. And now Japanese is a much more subtle, much more subtle, much finer, like delicate. So yes, it just depends. It's all different.
And then your tongue as well. Can see the level of damp and heat in the body. I mean, I just find all of that.
Well, your skin too, like your eczema, that's all damp heat.
Yeah. I mean, even though I can eat dairy according to my blood type, I avoid it. I do notice, that now that as I'm healing, I can tolerate it more. Because it was, again, Jen, you did so much work, right? I mean, thanks for sharing some of the journeys that you have with us. And I've had a few of them, and each time I learn something new about you. And I sit there and think, wow, and I'm grateful, Shelley, to yourself as well. Like, your experience with the How to Be Happy course. I mean, that is just valuable for all of us, you know, to know your experiences, what you were going through in your own personal journey, and Dr. Lindsay, you know, imparting your knowledge on the sort of alternative practices, because going back to acupuncture, it is, if anyone hasn't tried it, it is brilliant. And so this is a collective things that we do, you know. So as we draw to an end, I think, Christina, I think we've got about 3-4 minutes. Jen, over to you. What would you like to leave our viewers with today?
Yeah, thank you, ladies, so much for being here with us, you know, in this panel. I have really enjoyed this show today. I could talk about this forever and ever and ever, and go on and on and on about it. I guess I have a passion for it. I didn't really realize. And I have a passion for people being healthy and feeling well and feeling good and on and turned on and all of that. And so thank you so much for this platform to share some of the wisdom that I've learned over the years in my own self-healing journey.
Amazing. And Shelley, over to you.
I just think it's wonderful to have the people like you guys. We have to work on mind, body, and spirit. Like you said, we can't just work on one. It's a whole deal. And I just appreciate the topics you're talking about, and that it's a full circle, because we need to be completely balanced. So thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, thank you. And Dr. Lindsay.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'll see you guys, I think, next week. And I'm going to go move chi and take down my Christmas tree.
Yeah,
No more chi.
Yeah. I mean, again, everyone that's watching this on YouTube, this is actually Amelia's show on the PPN network. We've got all the details that are on the banner below. Jen Edwards, Shelley, Dr. Lindsay, and this is on my YouTube channel as well. It's just a lovely group of individuals that we actually didn't even know that we were going to be together today. So it was quite impromptu, and I love impromptu shows because it's like it throws you in the deep end, and we like together we can collectively impart on our own journeys, share these stories with each other. And I hope that this has helped people that are watching today. And like I said, don't forget to download the book, How to Be Happy. Amelia's put that together. There's just wonderful things. I've had a skim through it. I had her on my show. So people, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you watch that show with Amelia and myself. And just a final word from me. Thank you, Amelia, for having me to do this for you while you're on holiday. I hope you're having a good time and you're watching this. We love you. And everyone, make sure you check out the PPN network. And a final thing for me, do go on the RE Brand website to see all the videos and testimonials. And we have a New Year special that is continuing till the end of January, New Year 30. And Jen, I'm sending you one out, so don't order it.
Okay.
All right, everyone, thank you so much. And as we draw to a close, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, girls.